Well, April 15th, 2024. The Mach 1 has been in winter hibernation since the middle of last November. And I had a few projects I wanted to do, and now I'm going to start them. First of all, this latch mechanism is only letting the door close part way. It latches the first position, but it won't latch in the fully closed position. So I've got to pull the door apart anyway, which I'll explain why in a few moments. So while it's apart, I have a new latch mechanism to put in there. I could probably reset this. It might be fine for a while, but you know, there's a reason it's not latching correctly, whereas for the prior 4 or 5 years that we've had this car, it was working fine. Who knows? The other things that need to be done are the door lock cylinder for the door locks and the ignition key. I'm replacing the lock cylinder with new lock cylinders that are programmed to match the key for our other 73 Mustang, a convertible. That way, one key handles both cars. In fact, actually, it'll handle 3 cars, because we also have a 69 Shelby that uses the same kind of key. But rather than replace lock cylinders for 2 of these cars to match one set, on the ignition and trunk key, I'm going to cut one side to match the Mustangs, the other one to match the Shelby. So it's still one key for 3 cars. Anyway, to do that, this door panel has to come off so I can unhook all the rods that lead from the lock cylinder down to the door latch and the door lock rod, pop out that cylinder, put the new one in, put it all together. But wait, there's more. You probably can't see it on camera, but there are a lot of very fine scratches in this door glass. And the scratches are deep enough to feel it with my thumbnail, which is a general guideline as to, do I polish it out or do I replace it? We're replacing. I bought the door glass 2 years ago from ECS Automotive, and what they did, they had me take a picture of the CarID logo, the name of the glass product, and the date code, and they etched in those values for me in the new glass. So that'll be the other thing that I do when I have this all apart. Now, taking these door panels off is easy. Taking it off without breaking something and being able to put it back together so it looks good is a different story. And what makes a different story is this tool. It's a panel popping tool. There are some hidden latches in here that are spring-loaded interference fit sometimes, other times they're round plastic that push in easy, pull out hard. Rather than trying to get my fingers in and pull this thing out, or use a screwdriver, which can break the underlying materials that this vinyl is pressed onto, I use this to get in between those little spring-loaded latches and pop them out. This is a lot easier to do than with a screwdriver, and it does a better job. But before I do that, there's some other things I need to do. Window crank has to come off, armrest and the door latch handle has come off, and this little door lock mechanism comes off. Once that's off, I'll take a picture of how all these rods are hooked up, because it's very easy to get turned around and put together the wrong way, and then nothing works right. The other thing we'll need is a Phillips screwdriver, because I have a Phillips head screw here, one up here, and one behind this decorative cover plate on the window crank. These decorative cover plates are available. I have some I ordered a long time ago from TJ Pony Parts. They're the same ones that go in our 69 Shelby. And after one or two times of taking these things off, putting them back on, putting new decorative pieces on, after a while, I just said, forget it. I'm not going to put those decorative pieces on. No sooner I put them on, I got to break them to take them off again. There's no way to really get these things off effectively other than punching through the thin foil and then popping that out. And of course, it's not really usable after that, at least not where it's visually pleasant to see. So I have a few different ways of popping it out. Here, I'm going to try to use a flat tip screwdriver to punch through. And maybe, there we go. See how thin that is? Nothing to it.
That's garbage then?
That's garbage, yes, thank you. Now we'll get my full screwdriver. I don't know who picked this up for me. I probably bought it spur of the moment a long time ago. Hardly ever use it. But when I was looking for a Phillips screwdriver, it's the first thing I saw. So that's what I grabbed. I probably should have gotten my electric screwdriver and done this. But there's only 3 of these. Now there's a small washer behind the screw head, and that is used to keep from punching through this light plating, because there's not a whole lot to it. Huh. Then there's a... Okay, it's recording now. Well, we ran out of space on one of the iPhones for recording midstream. By the time we had done that, I'd finished a few things. This Phillips screw came out, this one came out, and what I was pointing out to a camera that's not recording was that each of these screws has a small flat washer, slightly beveled, and it's meant to keep the screw from punching through. The other thing I did is I took out the Phillips screw holding the window crank, and I then showed the 2 pieces being held in by that screw. There's a crank, and there's a little decorative back piece. On some cars, this decorative back piece is not plastic chrome plated. It is just flat washer, translucent, milky looking, but they are there to keep the window crank from stuffing the inner door panel. So that comes out. Now, the other thing that's come out is this door handle, which is going to be a real pain in the neck, and then this armrest. This armrest has 2 bolt-headed screws going up inside here. I'll take them off first after I put the correct size Phillips bit on here. It's a bigger Phillips bit than the other one. think it is this one. We'll find out. Oh, it might be hex head. Now that I'm thinking about it, we'll find out. We'll see. If it's hex head, I'm ready for it. Yeah, it's hex head. I'm trying to remember what size it is. I start with 3/8 inch. And now that I'm sitting down, I see that the nut driver handle I have, 1/4 inch drive, is one with a flexible shaft, which means I can't put too much torque on it. But I should be able to get this done. Yeah, that's coming out. 3/8 is the right size. Now, something about this door handle, or armrest, it's not the original. The original one, driver and passenger side on this car, were pretty well chewed up from years of use. So I got replacements, and the replacements look nothing as nice as the originals, but they're better than the ones that have been here. So anybody seeing this thinking it looks a little extra dark, a little too small, not cut quite right, you're correct. I'll get some when I find them, I'll get them. There's the one screw. I'll just use my right knuckles with my hand to hold that in place while I'm unscrewing the screw. This can get a little bit tricky. Oh, thank you.
I got 2 hands.
Maybe you have 2 hands, but you know, you do so much already as it is. Okay, this is if I can get this thing out. Yes, I can. And then the screw did not come through all the way. I'll see if I can get it out by pushing on the line and turning it. And that something's holding it. Well, I guess that's one way to keep from losing it. Also leave it alone. Now this piece is just kind of sitting here. I'll get that out when I get this off. And this is a large Phillips. And I can't get my head back there too easily, so I'll go by feel. I can't see it through the phone.
Yeah, I thought you could see the camera.
Oh, no, sorry. I'll do this. This is spring loaded, so it's kind of a hassle. Make sure it is Phillips. Yeah. Once I have it loose, it comes off pretty easy. There's a screw. Oh, you can't see it because it's stuck in the handle. There it is. And there's a screw with a washer. And that is just a plain old washer. It's not a lock washer. Okay, now. Starting in the lower half, I put this between the panel and the door. I want to be careful because the door that is painted, not that anybody looks down there, but I know it's back there. And I start to search. for where those clips are. Do it by feel. I just run down so I feel interference or stopping. That tells me I'm close. The more that I get done, the easier they are to get out.
They go all the way beside you?
Yeah.
Okay.
This I think I can take off right now. That'll make it a little bit easier.
Is that gonna just fall once you get them all?
Oh, they're hung, clipped under the door panel.
Okay.
Sometimes they do come off.
While he's doing this, I'll tell you my great idea. We backed the car in so that we had more room over here to work. And we also had to push the Del Sol out because the battery is still not holding a charge. So we got lots of room here. That was my idea.
Yes, it was.
Very smart.
Very considerate and smart. Okay. So now we see where these door clips are. A few we got left behind.
Oh, I see. Okay, want me to put this up here?
Yeah. And be careful of the very top so you can
Can you
unfurl.
hold this for a minute?
Yeah. Now someone's been in this door before, and that's okay. What's nice is that they put some plastic cover here, a little weather or moisture barrier. It's not factory, because factory, I don't recall ever using white or near translucent, near opaque translucent. But it peels right off.
Can you reuse it?
And we're going to reuse it because it's not paper and didn't tear up right in here. But thank you. Okay, so I'm going to take a few photographs with the camera and get things prepped with some pictures so I see how things came apart before I started ripping them apart. And then we'll get back to the rest of the video. I can tell you it is a lot easier to take photographs of how these different rods are connected to the door latch as opposed to taking them off and guessing, trying to get things to fit later, only to find out that it didn't work out so well. If photographs don't work out very well for you, you can look inside the other door and see a mirror image. Okay, I'm going to attempt to disconnect the little rod holders that are in place inside the door. I'm sorry it's such a tight fit, I won't be able to invite the camera inside to see what this looks like. Now these rod clips are metal, and they're usually on pretty hard, so I might have to get some pliers to pop it open. In fact, yes, I will.
Is it on here to show the new one?
Yes, let me show what this is doing.
This is the new one.
There's a left and right side to these units.
Oh, sorry, I thought it was open.
Yeah. And the way that this works, this gets bolted. Let's see if it's upside down or not.
Yeah, it's upside down because it's got to go like that
Yeah.
to match this.
Here is one rod keeper. As you can see, it is snapped into the arm. That's for the, I think, the door lock mechanism. I'm not positive. There's another one here. Oh, that's the door lock. And there's one here. And this one is for the latch itself, I think. I could be wrong. Yeah, it looks like it is. So anyway, this is what I've got to
You're disconnecting
disconnect the rods from. Oh, there's another one down here. There's 4 of them. So that's one reason why I took photographs so I can see which rods go where. And the photographs probably will turn out okay. But I've already been thinking about this. Think I'm gonna need Linda to stop the recording for a few moments and get me a couple different pliers I can use to get down inside to get these rod keepers out. So sometimes I want to point out, I mentioned earlier that there's a left and right side latch. Here is a letter R for right. Now, which is the right side? That depends. If you're sitting in the car in the driver's seat, the passenger side is to the right of the driver. The left side is on the driver's side of the car. They do the same thing for airplanes from the pilot's position, which is left or right, as opposed to standing in front of the car looking at it, it's backwards. So anyway, I now know where I need to feel around for these different rod clips. I'll pop those out. I'm going to try to take pictures explicitly of the different rods that came out of which of these little clips. Very, very easy to get backwards. Too easy. So with that, off I go. And I hope everybody has a good laugh about this. Can I have you give me a cardboard box? There's some manufacturing grease in here. I don't want to get it on the seat. Oh, and where I got this from.
I stopped recording. You want me to record?
Yeah.
Oh, what?
Auto Crafters. I've ordered a few things from them before. They've always gotten me good quality parts. Looking at this latch, I don't replace a lot of these things. Even back in the old days, they very rarely had problems. But this one looks like it is a fine unit. It is well made and is clean. And it was wrapped in a moisture-resistant plastic bag. What more could I want? What more could I ask for? Okay, we'll be back. Oh, I also, before I get on this, I want to show how I've illuminated the inside of the door. I have a small rechargeable flashlight that has little magnets at the end. And luckily, I found a piece of metal for the window carrier, and it is giving good illumination back here, so I can see all of the rods and where they clip. And so this will make it easier when I put things back together, being able to look at those pictures. Now, these door latches are held in place by a couple of fairly large Phillips head screws, but they aren't just any old plain Phillips head screw. They are set in really tight from the factory, and they're hard to get off without using the right tool. When they're replaced, sometimes folks would use these tools to set them back again so they're nice and tight. Other folks just make them tight and it's good enough. I like to use the impact driver. What this does is got some large bits that are made from high impact steel and a special driver. But it's not like just a plain little screwdriver. This one we use with a hammer, and we're supposed to. And the reason for that is there is a ring, a selector ring on these things. You turn it one way to have this bit jump to the right when this is hit, and the other direction to jump counterclockwise when it's hit. So the two actions are striking it forces the bit deep into the screw head, which helps minimize the opportunity for stripping the head, and it makes the screw head jump a little tiny bit. And you just need to jump a little bit to ease up that tension. Now, if these screws are like the ones I've seen in the other older cars, they have a special serrated lock washer that is kind of funnel shaped, and so it gives a lot of bite to keep the screw from backing out by itself. So here we go. Now, I don't usually use a claw hammer. I usually use a ball peen hammer, more typical of what automotive technicians use. This was easier to get to, and it'll do the job.
Now, did you get all the things off inside?
Oh, I got 3 of the 4 rods detached and out of the way. The 4th rod for the door lock mechanism is unlatched partly. I can't get in there and do the whole thing because it's so tight. But the other ones are off, and it feels like I should be able to get to them pretty easily. So now I size up these things to the different Phillips bits that I've got. And I think this is the correct size, and it is. It's a perfect size. So the bit goes in, and let's see. Sometimes it'll say which is left and which is right. Okay, you probably won't be able to see in the camera, but there's a letter R pointing in the one direction, and L for loosen in the other direction. So I will go to the loosen position. There's in tight position there. I hope it'll loosen. We'll find out. Well, I'm going to try first without the hammer, because sometimes these things aren't put in as tight as they are originally. Yep. Someone put this in loose. Sorry, I'm not going to make a lot of noise. Well, I haven't checked the other 2 yet. This one feels like it's loose. Feels wobbly already. Well, that took all the fun out of making some thunder. I guess the point is, this has been inside this door attached to these three screws for a long, long time, and they weren't in there all that tight. So when I put it together, I'll tighten it up snug enough to not come apart. I'm not going to make it difficult for myself or the next person who's going to work in the door. Although I have the tool to do it, doesn't mean I have to. This is almost the only thing I ever use this tool for, is taking off door jambs. And I purchased it a couple of years ago for this job specifically because I couldn't find my other one. I think I gave one of them to my son-in-law in California who works on cars for a living, and we had built him out a nice toolkit, and I gave him a bunch of special tools I figured he'd be able to use, because back then I never saw myself being back in the automotive repair business. And in a sense, I'm not, because I do this for myself, our own cars, and for personal pleasure.
Looks like the washer's right there, or is it built in?
The washer I was talking about is set in the metal of the door. Mm-hmm. I'm going to leave it there. It's not hurting a thing. Possible someone put those in and epoxied it before putting this in. I don't see any residue indicating that, but it wouldn't surprise me if someone was to do that.
Would they have done this when they painted it?
They probably would have, because I see no overspray
right.
on the latch.
Right.
And it was a really top-notch job, and anyone doing a really, really good job, they'll take these things off. They'll take the time to remove them. Now here, the lock washer came off. Mm-hmm. So I've got to keep that in mind when I start putting things back together. I'm going to keep this out because I'll be using it again. Probably tomorrow, not today. But, okay. And here comes the door latch.
We can see the little things you're talking about.
And there it is.
Oh, that's a big
and that's why it was so tight, getting it off. Just really tight quarters. So what I'll do, where's the other latch? I'll start to attach this door lock mechanism to the new latch, so at least one rod
we'll be able to see what you're doing in there.
Is installed and out of the way. Now when I put it in, I gotta snake this in so this rod goes up where it's supposed to be. The other rods, I have a pretty idea which ones go where currently, so I should be okay. But there's gonna be a couple of hours or days before I put this back together. The reason is because I'm not done yet. Oh, you know what? This didn't clip on completely because I've seen this before. Sometimes these new latches are thicker than the old rod. So what I have to do very carefully is squeeze these a little bit close. And the reason it has to be done carefully is this is spring steel, which means if I squeeze it too far, it's going to fracture. And if it fractures, then I'm in some real deep doo-doo. Huh. Yeah, it just slides right on and off. I've got to tighten up a little bit more yet.
Can you tighten it with it on it?
It won't tighten enough.
Okay.
I'm not going to do it now, so I don't have to worry about forgetting. Okay, I might as well test them.
Are they all this size?
Yeah. That will be fine. That was fine. That's a little loose still. Oops, sorry. Thank you. A little bit more. More yet. I'd rather not overdo it and break one of these things, because they can be taken off of this unit, but it's a pain in the neck, as you can imagine. How do I know? I've had to do it before. That's why I learned this stuff's made with spring steel and is fragile. Just a little bit more. There. In fact, it's tighter than the other ones now. All right. Now that. Okay, the lock cylinders I got came in a kit. They all came with their special keys, but I took those keys and tossed them and got my own key cut special. If you take a look at the one edge compared to the other one, you'll see they don't match. That's because one matches the 69 Shelby, the other one matches this car and Ginger. These are the two original keys. I held on to them just because. But this is the one we're going to be working with. And I've got 3 lock cylinders. Why would I have 3 lock cylinders in a 2-door car? Well, because one of them is for the trunk. And the original lock set for the trunk used a different key with a round head. But what these folks did is they made these so one key fits the trunk and fits the doors and the ignition. So these are the door lock cylinders. One for trunk, one for left, one for right. I can't remember which is which, but I'll find out in a moment. And so I'm going to go ahead and replace the lock cylinder right now to get it out of the way, and then I'll start working on the door glass. Now the lock cylinders are held in a very simple way. It's a flat steel, spring steel plate right here. And it basically has a small cutout in the lock cylinder, which I'll show you in a moment, that this plate slides in and holds pressure on it so that it pulls into the door so that this lock cylinder is always snug. Now the good news is that it works pretty well. The bad news is when it comes to taking it apart, it can be a real pain. Sometimes I use pliers. Other times I have to get a little more creative. What I'm trying to do is not damage the finish. So I see I have to get rough with this. Need Linda to get some other tools. We'll be back. Well, I had to have Linda go fetch these pliers. I did use this little door pry tool to get in here and get that spring steel out most of the way. Well, most of the way. A large part of the way. Now I'll finish it off. There we go.
So that's all that holds the lock cylinder?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, spring steel.
What holds this?
Yeah. I'll put that to one side and then carefully, so I don't drop or damage the paint, I don't drop the lock cylinder. Hopefully I can get the thing out.
Does that go in or come towards
It comes
me?
out. Now, because this was repainted, it's possible that the paint was still somewhat soft when this was installed, and so it might be really hard to get out. But I'll get it. It just might take some time. Where'd that small screwdriver go? Yeah, thank you.
There we go.
Just took a little convincing from behind. Okay, let me see if I... Perfect. Look at that. I'm going to take it out with its rod attached. Now, I got to figure out which of these is the correct one to use. They might be omnidirectional. I can't remember. No, there's trunk.
Oh, 3, I gave you the wrong one.
Well, yeah. the other one.
Explain how you knew that.
Oh, I will. Ooh. I might have gotten that wrong. No, I got it right. Okay. The way I was able to tell, I have these little standoffs that keep the lock cylinder from rotating in its hole. And here and here, I have an open area for this to move internally while the rod is in different positions here and here. This unit, when I have these little standoffs, it will move, but see how the orientation is not the same. The arm's pointed 180 degrees in the other direction. Getting them backwards will probably work, but then turning left or right on one side of the car or the other is going to lock and unlock in an unusual manner, but it should work. If I got the one wrong, it wouldn't be the end of the world. It's just some smart aleck at a car show might notice me locking or unlocking in the non-factory direction and say something. Tell him to go work in his own car. See how easy it is to know all these things. It started popping off. This is a retaining clip. It doesn't come with it. I gotta take it off of the old cylinder. Okay. I'll do it. It'll take a few moments, but I'll do it.
Keep recording.
Let me have you take a photograph. Okay. This can come out now that I've undone the keeper. And this rod can go in backwards. It will fit. But because of the way the bends and where the glass is in the door, it might interfere with the door glass going up and down properly. So I had Linda take a few photographs of how this came apart relative to the door lock switch or cylinder. And now we're going to try to take out this keeper and put it on the new door lock cylinder. I am really surprised that the new cylinders didn't come with this already. Sometimes they do, I guess. They used to, back in the old days. That looks dangerous.
Want to just store it?
Just want to hang it somewhere where it will stay for a while. Here we go. Little plastic bushing. My eyes don't work as well as they used to, so this might take some time. So I'll have Linda take us off camera so I don't embarrass myself too badly. Okay, I got the rod keeper switched over from the old cylinder to the new cylinder somehow. So now I'll attach the rod and then there's a small gasket I need to take and move over. So little things like these that help these things keep from getting water intruded. Little gasket. And it does go on one way only to clear these dog ears and this cylinder cap. So now I'm going to carefully put this back through the hole from whence it came. There we go.
Nice.
Now comes the tricky part. Getting this back in and under the cylinder head are against the door, and the spring hump pulls the cylinder in. So I have to get it started outside the door, and then once I have a bite, I will typically use pliers to push this in as far as I can, and sometimes I have to get a hammer to drive this in. But it has to be in all the way, otherwise it'll end up popping out, the cylinder fall. It's a real mess. But I've done these before, I can do it again. Now, because of how this is oriented, I have to go by feel. And that feels like I am where I need to be. All right, let me have that hammer. Oh, here, I'll use a small one here. What would be nice if we had a block of wood I can put in here and hammer at it. So what I propose doing, getting a block of wood between the spring steel, which is started where it's supposed to go, and use a hammer to drive it in.
Too big?
Oh, let's see, that's good. Oh, very good. Let me have you hold this. Yeah. Feels like it's in.
Yep.
But that looks pretty good. And everything's seated properly.
Yep.
Okay.
Check the keys, make sure it does something.
Redhead key. And it could be out 180 degrees, we'll find out.
Look at that.
Now if I put the key 180 degrees, it's locked, because
wrong car.
that's for the Shelby.
Okay. Good job.
Okay, now. I shouldn't start by saying this, but I will. I don't enjoy doing body type work nearly as much as mechanical work. In fact, I do what I can to avoid doing this kind of work. But it's almost mechanical enough to say it's for a technician to do, not a body person.
Gotcha. I get a very good view of all the scratches on the window now. You can see it.
Yeah.
So, and they're on both windows.
If you take your finger and run across there, you'll feel them.
No, but just the angle of this and this, the way the sun is, I can actually see the scratches. So
now I'm going to roll the window up with the window crank so I can show where the bolts are that hold it in place. We got some all over the place. I'm not really sure which I gotta take apart first. It's this window here that I need to get out from this channel. And I see that there's a rivet, and I can't tell, but it doesn't look like it goes through. Okay, I'm gonna go inside the house and do some reading to see how these things are set. Because looking at this, I can't tell for sure, and it's been so many years since I've worked on door glass. Okay, we are back on the Mach1, getting ready to replace the door glass in the door. And what I had found the other week before I ordered the parts we needed to finish this up is there are 3 bolt holes, these 2 and 1 down toward the bottom here somewhere, that in 71 and 72 Ford used bolts to hold the glass plate attachments in place. 1973, they used rivets. And so what I had to do was I had to drill out the heads of the rivets using a drill motor and a drill bit. But there's more just those 3 to deal with. There you see a white stop, a bumper stop for the rear, and there's one for the front also. Well, into somewhere. You have to trust me, I can't get to it right now. Anyway, those are also held by rivets, but it turns out that the rear one, at the very least, it has a rivet where the center pin is still in place. So even if I could access it through a drill motor, which I can't because it's behind this metal, I still couldn't use a drill bit to drill it out because I can't keep it on center. Won't be able to keep it on center. The front one, I'm pretty sure I can access through this hole. So for at least the rear bump stop, I'm going to use a Dremel tool to literally grind off the rivet head that is in place. And after I grind off the rivet head, I'll just go ahead and take that bumper stop off, and then I'll do the front. Now, being that I've already ground out the rivets for these three that are attached to the window regulator and carrier, probably someone's wondering, well, how is the glass staying up in place? Well, that's because up front here, I've got a metal clamp, spring-loaded with rubber tip, that I clamped around the glass and let it set down into the doorway itself, and so it's holding. Over here, I didn't fare so well, so I took some twine, very strong twine, wrapped it through one of the carrier attachment bolt holes, and after I wrapped it through, I went ahead and I'm using friction from running it through a couple of different holes here and using the same spring-loaded metal clamp with rubber tips to hold the twine in place. That's what's holding the glass up right now. So I'm not sure how well Linda is going to be able to take pictures or video of me grinding off the head of this one bumper stop. If she can get the video, well, we will. If we can't because of me having to reach in there and getting in the way, then I'm sorry, we'll show you the results. I'll catch you up.
When the little Dremel isn't big enough, we go for the big guns. Oh yeah. Big guns. Hey honey, what'd you do?
I got through it.
There's freaking glass all over the place. Yeah, we got through it and luckily no cuts, but we got to get him up very, very carefully. How'd we do?
Did pretty good. We got the piece off.
Well, how'd the piece come out?
I removed the glass material around it.
And it's all over the floor. Yeah, we broke the glass with the heavy duty.
That's okay. It's just as well we have new glass.
Vacuuming out the glass. We have cleaned up the glass mess. We have installed the new glass with 2 bolts are attached to keep it from moving.
Yeah, I should show that. 1973, Ford had another better idea. actually 1969, they started to, instead of using bolt-in fasteners to hold the glass inside its carrier, with this kind of design here. Sorry it's taking so long. I should have thought to do this earlier. But there is a plastic washer, if you will, on each side of the glass. And here, there's a shoulder where it goes into a hole in the glass. And then on the other side of the glass, there is metal. This goes through the metal, which clamps down to this threaded shoulder in the metal. And then it stops. And the glass fits inside there. And then we have a lock nut that goes on here that kind of jams this whole thing together and keeps it from ever loosening. Well, in 1969, Ford decided that instead of going through the expense of the metal, the plastic bushings and shoulders, and the labor to assemble the glass with the carriers, instead of having bolt through, they had little U-shaped holding devices on the channels. The glass would sit down and they would glue like an epoxy in here, and that was supposed to be faster and cheaper. Well, worked fine for assembly. Apparently worked okay for all their test driving because they wanted to see if it was shake loose and glue would fracture or just what. But after they decided to do that, people with glued in door glass started having problems. And so after warranty, oh well, too bad. During warranty, just put more glue on there. But what we did for our 1969 Shelby, I changed one thing on that car from original. I had the glued in glass and channels taken out, and I put in 1970 glass carriers with the bolt-through design from Ford for 1970. They abandoned the glue from 69. It's a horrible idea. So the one thing that is not fully factored in our Shelby is 1970 door glass and carriers. Shoot me. I don't want to deal with door glass flopping around. Well, 1971 and 72, Ford kept using bolt-through carriers. 1973, they decided they had another better idea. And so they started to use devices like this with the shoulder with a rivet. And it was cheap, it was fast, and I don't know if they kept doing that later years or not. What I do know is I've never seen a 1973 with a rivet assembly have a problem until it was time to take the door apart and take the glass off. Well, I had to go ahead and drill out the rivet head for the 3 units like this that I had to deal with. And in the front and rear of the glass, we have some circular stops. They also are riveted. Getting that head off was a real mess. I can't drill it, so I had to use a Dremel tool that got so hot it started melting the plastic. And so I decided to one up on Ford's horrible idea and take this thing apart quickly. So I got an air chisel, put it on that head, and figured I'd hit it and knock it off. Well, the whole glass shattered. It's okay, I had new glass. It just made a mess. Made it easier to take everything apart, that's for sure. But I have 1971-72 style bumper stops that are secured by a bolt with a built-in shoulder. So I need to find bolts to attach these into the window glass before I call this job done. In the meantime, we did have 3 of these rivet points of the 1973 glass, but the glass I have, only 2 of these bolt holes are lining up with the holes already drilled by the glass in the carrier. It'll be enough to hold it in place. A third one, I don't know why it's there. Maybe it was there because they found they needed extra support for the rivet design. I don't know. But what I do know is luckily at least 2 of the 3 anchor points on the window for the carrier fit with these bolt grooves, front and rear. So at least I have that. I gotta figure out where the other one is and see if I can do something about getting this in place. If I can't, no big deal. 1971-72, I've never seen doors having a problem with glass getting loose or anything. With rivet, I can see why you probably would have had to go to something a little more secure. But anyway, I'm glad I read up on this and found out before I started pulling it apart, because it would have been a little mess otherwise. At least I think it would have been a mess. Oh, and the way that I held these windows up before I had the bolts in place to secure them, I had some hang clamps with rubber tips, and I basically put them on the glass so that if we had to let the glass down because it's heavy, we could do it here and here and wouldn't have a problem. But so far, I don't even have this thing put together yet, and take a look, it's working. Okay, I see the 3rd anchor point on the carrier. I don't believe it's going to line up with the door glass. I don't think we have anything there for it. I'll find out right now. No. Nope. Not at all. So for 1971-72, it must be that they only had 2 anchor points. I'm going to hunt for the 3rd one and make sure. One back here is for the rear stopper. There's a front stopper. I can't find the other glass hole that was cut. I don't think I can. Noises.
I can go measure on the other glass.
Something's hanging here. Yeah, if you would. Okay, we're going to get off the line. We're going to do some measuring. Okay, I finally have the glass in the door. This is new glass. And I have the door latch mechanism connected to 4 different push rods or pull rods, depending on what you're doing. Okay. We have remaining of the passenger door needing to install to these bumper stops on the window, front and rear glass, and then adjust how far up the window can go with its adjustment. Now, this piece still has broken glass inside that from where the glass shattered. And you see that it has a rivet in here, and there's where the rivet popped out when it was done being installed 51 years ago. I'm not going to re-rivet these things. What I did instead is I purchased a bunch of bolts, nuts, and fender washers. So rather than using a rivet, I'm going to do what they did originally and use a bolt. I hope it's not too long. They are. I'm not going to use these bolts, or I might. It depends. I'll see what I can do. I got a lot of room to work in.
Well, it used to be this big, right?
Yeah, but look how far the threads have to go.
Gotcha.
The shoulder is much too long. I got too long a bolt. Anyway, I can remedy that, I think. I'm going to find out. I'm going to cut out the rivets, grind them off the head with the Dremel tool, and then see if I can take them apart that way. I should be able to. But, like everything else, we will see. Now, I have some nice glasses I'm going to use without putting safety goggles on, but Linda, if you were to see her, she's got a cute set of goggles on so that she doesn't get stuff flying in her eye.
Oh, look at that.
Okay, done. These are still stuck together. My guess is that there is a plastic piece in here with barbs that expand inside this. I'll find out. So I can get this metal washer out first. Worst comes to worst, I can get a hacksaw and cut through the center, because I don't necessarily need the shoulder on this side. I need the flat washer. In fact, I have to grind some of that away so I don't have any high points against the glass when I use it on the back side of these bumpers. Okay, you can cut. Okay, I got the two pieces apart from each other. And like I thought, there was a center piece. There's two parts of it still there that clipped into the other round piece. And these, not only do I not need, but I do not want with what I'm going to be fabricating using these old parts. There's a center part here that's higher than the surrounding area. I've got to Dremel tool that down. This side is flat. It is what I'm going to put against the window with a fender washer on this side and a bolt going through, and the fender washer distributing the load across the plastic piece for soft connection or soft locking on the window itself. So what I'll do next is I'll use the same Dremel shoulder.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you.
Linda asked a very good question. Why am I going to grind this shoulder off instead of using it to help space the glass? Well, we're really needing to have this part installed in the glass, and it has a shoulder that has the thickness of the glass already present. If I put this piece in against it, it's going to be too wide to hold the glass
So the glass will flop around. I gotcha.
in place.
Gotcha. Okay.
Now this is the one window stop from the original glass on the Mach 1, and I want to reuse at least this piece of it, if not this also. But it was assembled using a rivet from the factory, so I have to drill this rivet out. So I'll take these little pullover leaves and get them up out of the way, I hope. Boy, that's gonna be tough. So I'm gonna go ahead and start to cut this with the Dremel tool. I'm not gonna do the whole thing on video because it's gonna be so boring, but at least you can see me start.
Go.
The metal is starting to get very hot from the abrasive activity with the stone. The glass is transferring the heat, so I'm going to let it cool off a bit before I go after it again. When I assembled the glass where it's attached to the carrier, I had one bolt here, one over here, and one way up high. And I had the proper mounting attachments and fasteners, so that went together pretty nicely. What I need to do now is on the back side of the washer nut assembly, I need to put a jam nut, J-A-M. And what a jam nut does is it is run down on the shaft of a screw with threads up against another nut. And so the two nuts keep each other from loosening up. And even though it wouldn't seem as though these nuts will loosen up the nut plates, they might, because there's a lot of vibration that happens in the automobile when it's traveling, and usually the kind of vibrations that cause things to loosen up cannot be felt or heard by humans. They're at a different frequency, but things loosen up. So before I wrap this whole thing up, I'm going to do that. Meanwhile, at this end of the glass and at the other far end up front, I have two holes that are drilled in the glass, and these are called window stops, and they need to be attached to the glass. So as the glass gets rolled up, those window stops get hit by the other side of this adjustment piece of metal. So it can't go too high and doesn't stop too low. This is the adjustment for the rear up and down, and for the front up and down, I have a similar configuration. But I need to put these front and rear of the windows. Now you notice I got a bunch of washers on here. I'm going to show you in a moment why. It has a shoulder around where the bolt goes through to retain this, and that shoulder is what fits in that little hole in the glass. I hope you can see that. Where is it? Roll down a little. There you go. There's a hole in the glass. So this little shoulder piece protrudes through there. On the other side of the glass, I have another plastic washer with another little bit of a shoulder. Not much, just enough so that when these two pieces come together, there's enough tightness to hold the window in place without putting a lot of stress on it. The problem is that this roller has a built-in nut. 1/4 inch diameter, 20 threads per inch for the threading. And I have a bolt for that. The problem is that this bolt is too long and I cannot thread it down below the shank of the bolt, the unthreaded part. If I do, then I can't get these two pieces together tight enough to do the job. So Linda is gone this afternoon. I don't feel like running down to Home Depot. I'm really way dizzy. After effect of all this brain surgery 10 years ago, it affected my balance and my speech. But I had a bunch of fender washers, so I stacked them. And that ate up the extra length of the shank. So now when I put this bolt through the window on the back side with the one plastic washer, I can go ahead and thread through the round stop part as it has its nut catch these threads, tighten it down, and then I have another 1/4 inch nut, which is also coarse thread, 20 thread per inch. I can run down on top of this bolt and jam it against the nut inside this bumper stop, and that will keep it from vibrating loose. So I'll be doing that in a few moments. What I'm going to do, and unfortunately I have to do it off camera, is I'm going to go ahead and put together this set of washers with the plastic washer, and then push this through the back side, the outside of the window, so the threads come through the passenger side, and then I'll thread on the bumper stop until I have it nice and snug. When it's snug, that's when I'll go ahead and I'll put the jam nut in place, and I'll show a quick video and or pictures of what that looks like. But that's how I resolved the extra length on the shank. I have lots of room in the door to work with extra length for the fastening bolts, so I can get away with this. Okay, I don't know if I said it before or not, but just in case I didn't say it before, I'll say it now. There should be a special place in hell for engineers who designed these doors and these window mechanisms. I mean, they're brilliant. They get a lot of stuff working with very little room, but they don't really seem to consider what it's going to take to do repairs after the automobile is assembled and sold to car dealers, much less to end consumers who later on need to have repairs done. I say that because it's such a miserable pain in the neck getting up inside the door to put these door stops in place, go on the back side of the glass to put a bolt through with enough spacers so that the back side and the front side fasteners can become compressed against each other. Then I put a lock nut on the shaft of the bolt that's going through the fasteners and tighten it down. And my forearms are both pretty well scraped up from cutting through sheet metal and other metal with sharp corners. That was the easy one. The hard one is way up in front. Gee, I think I have to turn the headlight on. One moment. Well, I'll find the light. Okay. There's the light. And you can see where that round window stopper is located. Well, here on the front glass, way down here, is where I have to go through to get the front one on and tighten this from behind the glass. I did all that work using a 7/16 ratcheting box wrench, where from behind the glass, on the outside of the glass, I could put this over the bolt head, tighten it down against the stop, window stop. It has a built-in nut. And then I ran a second nut down on the bolt shaft and used a ratchet wrench with a socket and the ratcheting box end wrench in opposition to each other to tighten things up. I'm really sorry Linda wasn't here to take videos of it. I think it would have been entertaining to see how frustrating it was for me to do all that work. Well, I got the 2 window bumper pieces installed, and I found that this bumper stopper was adjusted pretty well, but I adjusted it a little bit higher. The front bumper stopper is as far down as it can go. It's still about 3/16 of an inch from touching the front bumper stopper. So I thought, well, maybe someone installed this upside down when they had the car apart. Not likely, but possible. I flip it upside down, and the highest I can get that bumper stopper to touch this stop metal is about 3/4 of an inch too low. So I'm putting it back the way I found it. Apparently, this particular vehicle doesn't really need the front bumper stopper because the window stops with the mechanism by itself with the rear stopper. This stops, everything stops. But then I took a look at how well the door is shut and sealed from the outside, seeing where does this touch the weather stripping. I didn't like where it was hitting, so I moved it up a little higher in the front. Now it hits nicely. So nicely that I'm going to go ahead and put this door together. And if I have any wind noise because the window's not high enough, I'll take the panel off again. I'll adjust this rear stopper. Make some other adjustments as necessary. Now, one of the unusual things about using the bolts-in window stoppers is I made sure that I could get enough of the bolt shimmed away from the one plastic washer that touches the glass, so that the shank of the bolt wasn't so deep that it would start hitting the built-in nut from the round unit, the bumper itself. And on the rear stopper, I have zero movement. On the front stopper, I have a little bit that's not going to go away unless I shave off some of the plastic shoulder that touches the glass and flatten it out a little bit, or put some rubber cement or silicone on the back side where the bumper is touching the glass, and let that keep it from rattling around. I'm not going to worry about it that much because functionally, first of all, it's not really necessary. I could take that thing out. It's not doing anything. It's not touching anything anywhere. In fact, now that I'm thinking about it, that's what I'm going to do, because I don't want to risk having this thing rattling around unnecessarily. And it is so far away from this other bumper stopper that's down as far as it can go that, well, you know, it just doesn't make sense for it to be there. Why it is that Ford put it in there to begin with is beyond me. This thing isn't so far out of adjustment that this is a problem. It's not out of adjustment. It is rolling up and down very nicely and fitting against the weather strip very nicely. Okay, I'm going to take it off and save a few inside. Okay, I took off the front window bumper from the assembly and everything is fine. The window rolls up all the way. I'm now going to remove the door handle I put on temporarily as I was verifying all the connections to the rods, push and pull rods for the door latch were set up correctly. So I have to move that off before I put the door handle on. And I also have the window crank I need to remove. Now, what's left is
Water?
so Linda is going to hand me the door panel.
Clips down.
Clips go to the bottom, at the front, and the rear. And then what I do is I get a few of those clips lined up into little holes. And then with the heel of my hand, I should pop them in. I like to make sure that the clips are going to fit properly by feeling around.
Oops, that one slid down. Cut on.
Here's one that fell out of position. So I need to go ahead and see if I can get it back into position and lined up. All right. That one fell too. I think.
No, that was a piece of cloth off of it.
Is it still going?
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Let's go on the upside.
Okay, try this again. That one is in a good position.
Yeah, as soon as you pull it out, though, it's not. So I would get the bottom done and then work your way up.
There we go.
Okay, so you're
One fell. Okay, now for the top piece. I have that close at hand. And get the door lock button through first. Then roll down the window. Thank you. Yep. Okay. Now I've got to find where I put these two screws here and here. They're around here somewhere. Turn it off for the moment. Okay, found the screws that go into the front and rear panel. One is longer than the other. They both have a fairly decorative washer to try to make it look like it belongs as a car interior. That's longer than it has to be, so I use a shorter one up here. Okay, that caught. Get the Phillips head lined up. Okay, I don't make that so tight that it's going to strip. There's no need to get brutal. And you know, the long one definitely belongs up front here. Okay, that part of the door is back together. Now I gotta find the foam door handle and the 2 screws that go in. Do you see where the door handle is?
The door handle?
Yeah, the foam piece.
I'll cut the go.
This foam handle lays up against this plastic spacer, and in here are 2 hex-headed bolts that kind of keep these 2 pieces together, but they get screwed into the door using special clip nut hardware. This is always fun trying to get together. There's 2 different modes. It works right away, or it's going to be a hassle. I'll never know, actually for sure, until I have it done, which way it goes. That one feels pretty good so far. And that feels like it's going pretty well. I do them both a little bit each before I tighten them down. So I kind of rock it back and forth as it goes against the door. I do that, and any need for it to make adjustments along the way, it does it by itself. I don't have to worry about it. And once I have these pretty snug using a nut driver, it's time for me to break out my ratchet handle with an extension to do the final tightening. And it doesn't take a whole lot to tighten it. Tighten it too much, and you end up stripping or breaking that spring steel clip-on nut. It's not designed to take a whole lot of abuse. Door handle with a little Phillips screw. This is always a real pain to put together because I'm working in a tight space that I cannot maneuver in very well. But I have to get that machine screw started at least 1 or 2 threads before I get the screwdriver, which is a Phillips head, and finish the task. If I try to do it before the machine screw is threaded a little bit, I have problems because the screw will not go in correctly. It'll be cross-threaded. In this case, I have a good bite. It's a little bit loose right now, so I keep tightening it. It's getting really nice and snug now. And just like the door handle screws, you don't have to get mean on this thing. Tight enough is tight enough. Okay. Make sure the door rolls up the glass. Look at that.
One last step.
Not yet.
What's that?
The door handle isn't attached yet.
Oh.
Now there's something about these door handles. When the window is up, I don't want this anywhere near my knee. First of all, because resting my knee against a door panel, if it's in the way, it bothers me. More important, if there is a collision and an impact, even a slight impact, if my knee hits this door knob, it is going to hurt. So I'd like to kind of move them so that when the window is up, it's forward. When the window is down, it's forward also. My knee is over here in this area. Just something to think about when you put these together. So the last screw is the retaining screw for this handle. Now, if you've been watching carefully, you see that I put in a new bolt or screw in position. I like to go reverse thread first so that the thread drops into the proper threading channel of where it's being screwed into. Then I'll tighten things up. And just like with everything else, tight enough is tight enough. So, new door lock cylinder, new door latch, new glass.
Last step,
Tell me.
we're gonna clean that glass.
Oh.
Look at all the fingerprints on that brand new piece of glass. Yuck, 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 yuck.
Yeah, but you know what?
Good job.
It's time for me to close this door, wash my paws, and relax for the afternoon. This doesn't look like a lot of work, and if I were not in the condition I am, following all this brain cancer stuff and recovery from the surgeries and out of balance and all that, overweight, it wouldn't be an issue. But I tire quickly, and I would rather not keep working while I'm tired. I'd rather wait till tomorrow to do the other side. And when we do it, I will hopefully be able to do it with Linda doing a video of me actually taking the door apart completely and taking out the glass. We had to skip those steps with this first part of the recording simply because I had to relearn how to do it. It's been decades since I've touched a door in a Mustang. I just knew it was a pain in the butt. Could have been worse. It could have been power windows with power motors in there with even less room to work in. But so far, I'm happy with the result. Once I have both door glasses replaced and lock cylinder, I will want to test drive it to make sure I don't have any whistling or wind noise when the glass is up. When the glass is down, I don't really care if I hear noise or not. It doesn't matter. It's when the glass is up. And also going through a car wash when the glass is up. That will tell me how well I sealed it. Actually, I have another way to do that, and I haven't tested it yet, but I think I will. What I have is I have an ultrasonic generator. And I can put it inside the car, roll the windows, close the doors, and then use an ultrasound receiver or sensor around the seals of the door glass. And if I hear any whistling from the ultrasonic generator inside the car, I've got an air leak. If I have an air leak, I have a water leak. So I'll find that equipment after I put the other piece of door glass in. I'll show how that works. Okay. Okay, a very clean window, but we ran out of paper towels, so it's not as perfectly clean as we'd like, but there are no scratches in this window. Look at that. Beautiful. Yes, and what I'll do is I'll take some of the video that showed the scratches the other day and compare it side by side with the new glass. Yeah, well, I could show the other window over there because that's got to get done. But here's something I needed to do. Okay, taking a video. Skin custom from ECS Automotive Conccepts. And what they did is they replicated the original CarID logo from the door glass and the type of glass it was or is, and the date code that the glass was made. So they made a duplicate copy of that information at my request. Very cool. Thank you. Well, here's Linda. There's our air conditioner for the garage. You want that on? And here's, no, we can leave it off. It's cool enough in here, thank you. And here is a door that we broke the glass out of the other day. The Linda was kind enough to sweep up a lot of the glass and the garage floor. So now it's time for me to vacuum up all the glass that remained inside the door, which is what I was hoping it would do, so it's easier to clean up. After that, I'll raise a window regulator, take out the bolts that have been holding the old glass, put the new glass in, get it bolted in, bolt into window stoppers, window stop bumpers, and then we'll see if we can put it all together. Okay, I'm not going to bore you guys with all the vacuuming I have to do, but there's a vacuum cleaner I'll be using. And there's a mess I gotta clean up. I figured 15, 20 minutes.
Extra bags.
I'll be back. Okay, we got done vacuuming. If you look inside, you notice that there's no more glass at the bottom of the door. After I got done, Linda took a really good look. Found a few of the small pieces that were in there. We got them. So now what we're going to do is find the bolt-in style of fasteners that I ordered for 7172 Mustangs to replace this, because this washer does not have an embedded thread. It'll be easier using the other pieces. And if I can't find enough, then these will work. It's just a little more cumbersome. So we're going to get the pieces I need in one spot, and then I have an etching hole here, one up here, and one down below a little bit further. And I want to get at least one of them lined up, and then use our black hand clamps to hold the glass in the channel. After I get the one attached, I'll try to get a second one attached and the third one. And hopefully I can do that by myself without requiring Linda to help me, so she can hold the camera and so you can see how I'm doing this. To fasten the other window, I bought as much equipment I could, parts I could, to hold the window. The original units were fastened with the rivet, and then they press into each other, and that's what holds the window in place. But I want to use bolts in. The problem I'm having with bolts in is that the shoulder on the lower piece is a lot lower than the shoulder had been in 1971 to 72. So if I end up matching this with the wrong piece here, I have too much width to hold the window securely. What I need to do is have a washer like this that is flat. I've got one here somewhere.
But it's got to be plastic. It can't be metal, right?
It has to be plastic, can't be metal. Here we go.
I got you.
Like this. It's totally flat on both sides, no shoulder. So because I don't have any with everything I've purchased that I've collected and cannibalizing the parts I did have, I can either use this with a small shoulder and then take a metal fender washer and put it where the shoulder is and have the flat side toward the window. I don't want to do that because then all the stress on the window is close to the center instead of being spread around. Or I could go ahead and, using a Dremel tool, cut this plastic down so it's flat. And then I have fender washers I can put on top of there. and then bolt that into the other piece, and that should be just what we need to hold that glass securely and distribute the load on the glass around the larger flat areas with these two plastic pieces. So what I'm going to do now is see how well I can polish off the center right here. And if this gets to be a problem, I can always use a big drill and drill out the center of this fabric or this plastic piece, because once I end up putting a bolt through, I'm going to have a fender washer to help distribute whatever load is available. And if it's a little sloppy, it's no problem. But I'm going to try to get this where I'm only taking off the shoulder the best I can. And if it's a problem, I'll do it different. Okay, I flattened out the shoulder, and you see a couple of divots where the cutting tip got into the plastic a little bit as I was working it, but the shoulder is gone. So now I can take a fender washer and put it right in here, then have the bolt run from here into the other plastic piece with a special kind of washer. It's threaded. So then what I can do is to run the two down together, and it'll hold everything in place. Now this bolt I'm demonstrating with is too long for the application. What I have that I'll be using, I purchased a whole lot of bolts along with the plastic and metal assemblies from 1971 to 72 Mustangs, and that will fit perfectly for this application. Well, it's hard enough to do with that glass in my way. Imagine how tough it's going to be to do this inside the door. But then the idea is to tighten this down, and then we'll have fairly even distribution of stress across the plastic pieces backed up by the metal pieces. And I might, depending upon how I feel about it, install a jam nut behind here to make sure this bolt never works loose over the next couple dozen years. I'm sure no one's going to be inside this thing for decades. No need to. We already done all the hard work. So it looks like I have the components necessary to do the job at hand, but I need to grind down one more of these pieces. I'm trying to find what's the lowest possible shoulder. Those are a little higher there, this one. The problem is that on 73, when they riveted these things together, they made the center of these pieces snap together so they could do a quick pre-assembly with glass, just squeeze them together, and then all this is held in place pretty much and won't come apart. Then they'd run the rivet on one end and pop it out the other and secure it. So I'm going to figure out how to pop these two pieces apart so I can grind down the low shoulder on this one piece here, and then we'll be good to go. cut down another plastic washer. And the reason is because once I started assembling this, it suddenly came to me how it is supposed to be assembled. I was close. This goes outside the glass, and the holes in the glass are cut at a correct diameter for this shoulder to go into. The glass then is on this side. The carrier is on this side. It's made of metal. So it turns out I need to put this on the glass before the carrier, and after that, then I get the piece to bolt in. So the bolt and the flat washer here go outside the metal carrier. The metal carrier mates up against the flat of this plastic, which then contains the glass between the two plastic pieces and the plastic shoulder. And then there's a nut washer, takes the bolt and holds it all together. So once I saw that, I realized I had to make a third flat bushing here, because this one is thinner than the other two, and I didn't want to have 3 different points of stress, because this was making things too tight. It could have cracked the glass or shattered it. Maybe not right away, but over time, I would come out one day and the stress on the glass would finally give away, and I have a door full of broken glass pieces again.
So we've got 2 attached, that guy.
Yep, we have 2 attached. Let me roll this up a little bit. We've got this bolt in and through, and this bolt in and through, and it leaves one up here, which is going to be really tough to get because it's way up high. But I got it before, I'll get it again. Okay, we can cut. Okay, it is done. The front bumper stop is in place. The front anchoring bolt is in. This other anchoring bolt is in, and there's one up here. There it is. That's in. And the front bumper stop is in and anchored with a lock nut. Probably can't tell how scuffed my forearm is on the tender side, but these edges, they're not sharp, but they are sharp enough to scuff and get my forearms down the side of that door. It just led me to believe that indeed there should be a special place in hell for engineers who design this stuff. Anyway, we got it done. My next task is going to be finding my ultrasonic detector. Roll these windows up with the ultrasound generator in the middle of the car, closing the doors with the windows up, and listen on the outside with a special sensor to see if there's any ultrasonic waves leaking out. If so, that means that it'll be a wind noise. If not, then we seal it properly. But that's a fight for tomorrow, maybe on Friday, 2 days from now. I don't know yet. We'll see how I feel. I feel pretty good about how this came out. It worked out at least as well as I thought it would, maybe even a little bit better. Oh, the proof of the pudding. Okay, the window is all the way down. Now it's going all the way up without any complications. That bumper hit the stop like it's supposed to, and so did this one. Okay, that's a wrap for now. Now it's time to adjust the glass. When I close the door and the window is all the way up, I close it carefully so it wouldn't hit this metal frame. I found that this corner was up higher than here. Now the way that these window mechanisms work is kind of wonky. If you watch as I roll up, you'll see that at some point this part will hit. If I keep rolling up, that part doesn't go up any higher, this part does. So right there, I've gone as high as I can here. Now watch this. I don't know if you can tell.
Yeah, yep.
It goes up and back.
Yep.
So what I need to do is bring this down a little tiny bit and bring this up a little tiny bit. And to do that, I've got two different places to adjust, here and here. Inside the door, there are pieces of metal that are L-shaped with a slight curve right here. And if you watched carefully when I was putting these door pieces together, I had what looked like a roller skate wheel about that big around and white. That is the window bumper stop. It comes up and hits this metal stop, and that's what keeps the wind from going up real far, too far. So I'm going to adjust this up a little bit first, and then I'll adjust the other one down, maybe. Because by adjusting this up, this might be taken care of. Okay, up a little tiny bit. Lock it down. And then I'll close the door and see if it looks like it's going to seal properly. I had to hold this. Thank you. Roll it down. They're both hitting about the same time now, which doesn't mean anything yet. Okay, I have more clearance here than I did before, because when I put this one up, this one tipped back a little, and here it looks like it hit perfectly.
Actually, the side over here looks like it's tight up there.
Oh, it's got more clearance now than before.
Okay.
I think we're good. Now, the other day I mentioned an ultrasonic tool that I have, that I turn on the ultrasonic generator inside the car and use a listening device to listen for escaping ultrasonic sounds, which indicates a source of a possible air leak. Well, Linda and I both looked for it, couldn't find it anywhere in the house or the garage, so I'm not sure where it went. Most likely I won't find it until after I have this all put together, if there's an air leak. If I have to, I'll buy another one. They're cheap. Okay, For my next trick to assemble this, first the window I will roll down. Take the handle off, and then I have a cable mirror adjustment for this outside mirror. So I move this thing around, the mirror can be adjusted from inside the car. And they work pretty good. They're not as fancy as newfangled electric adjustments, but for the day they're pretty good. I'm trying to get the door inner panel on, and line this up is a real bear. So what I do is I take some fuel line, I push it over this round knob just a little bit, and then when I bring the panel up, I'll push this through where this normally comes through. Reminds me I have to take off the bezel nut. Don't want to leave that behind. I'll have a real hard time getting it put together correctly. I kept the bezel nut screwed in to the base unit simply so I wouldn't lose the part with all this activity. So now the chrome bezel nut is off and this is ready to be assembled. But wait, not completely ready. That's right, there's more. I need to take a look at those retaining clips on the panel, inner door panel, and make sure they're all in place. After I put the moisture barrier in here. On the other door, I forgot to do that first time, so I had to do it the second time. Okay, so now I gotta figure out how this goes on. That's right. Okay. Now there was a little bit of slightly tacky adhesive inside here before. I'm hoping it is still there because it'll make things a lot easier for me. No such luck. Well, this is going to be fun.
No, it's
The
sticky.
adhesive isn't as tacky as it was on the other side. So I need to know if you can get this lined up a little higher. See a hole behind there?
Mm-hmm. But nothing to, you sure you got the sticky side down? Yeah.
Yeah, because the mirror has a
Yeah.
spot here, as well as the doorknob. Or should I say the window crank.
Can we put tape on it and then remove the tape or no?
Yeah, let's get some blue tape. Do you have any?
I don't have any painters.
Well-
Oh, blue, painter's tape?
Painter's tape.
Okay, let me pause this.
Yeah. Checking all of these pins, the clips, and they all look like they're in good shape, in where they should be. Now, take this rubber hose and just push it through.
Wrong hole.
The hole it belongs in.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Never mind. Does that got to come off first?
This is a special flat washer that has a keyway slot. I have to make sure it's in perfectly before it lets me go any further. So now I have that through. So at this point I can put the bezel nut in place. And get that started. These are always a challenge because it's so easy to cross thread. So I go reverse thread first, wait for the thread to drop in place, and then I tighten it by hand. Just not to hold it securely. I'm not trying to make it permanent yet. And now, gotta make sure I shove all those cables in. Now, first pin is in, was in, two are in. Now I have to get the other end. Once I have enough started, the rest will go in easy.
Whoa. You all right?
Way out of balance, probably okay. Okay, got the top ones in. The rest will be fairly easy if I don't lose my balance and fall over.
That's not lining in.
I see. This pin slipped. There we go. Gotta test to make sure the mirror works, and it does. So I'm good there. Up is up, down is down, right and left. So we're good. I'm going to start to put together the trim pieces now. This piece, when I took it apart, I had a screw for here, but I did not have one for back up here. It was missing, so I have one on order. It will show up. So I'll assemble it without that other trim screw. The trim piece locks in at the top edge of the inner door sheet metal, so it's not going to go anywhere. But having a screw in there will keep them flapping around at worst. So now there are two hex bolts that go into holes at the bottom of the armrest and come out up here. So I've got to make sure I have this lined up properly with this center trim piece so it all goes together properly. One. came away. I'll push these bolts through as far as I can. And now I have to get these lined up with these little spring nuts. I need to know if you can find for me a socket. There we go. Got one started. I got them both started. So bring them both up a little bit at a time so that this thing, as it comes up with the angle of bolts, this will straighten out. I don't want one side to be higher than the other. Okay, remember where the ratchet and the extension are?
I got this guy.
And the extension.
Will that work?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. I don't want to over tighten these, but I want to make sure they're at least tight enough so that they'll stay secure over the next many years. Hopefully no one has to do any work in these doors anytime soon. Oops, lost the socket. Uh-oh. There we go. Nice and secure. Keep this rolling around. Right there. Okay, now. Okay, now for the decorative door handle. These are always such fun to get started. The screw is in such a hard place to access manually. I think I have it. Like, oh yeah, I do. Again, tight enough is tight enough. I'll try to win any prizes here. Okay, I'm missing two little parts. The retaining screw and the plastic scuff preventer. Let me have Linda pause. Well, I found the parts I was missing. They're in the safest place it could be, underneath my behind. Phillips screw. That's pretty close. That'd be better. Whoops. Come on, get in there. Well, it feels like it's starting. Yes. Tight slug. Okay. Make sure it's all the way up. That might make it easier. Is it? Okay.
Yeah. Okay, you're on it. And it goes, oh, wait a minute.
Something so easy shouldn't be that
Okay,
hard.
there you go. And then you gotta move it. Oh, don't push it. Don't push it yet. Okay, there you go.
Okay, that feels good. That hole lines up behind.
No, it does not. So we're gonna move it to you a little.
Toward me. Oh, how's
Whoops,
that?
nope. I didn't see the screw hole.
How far is it?
It's got to come back towards me again. Where are you there? Whoa, stop. Right there.
Okay.
Beauty. Did you move it some?
I see what it is.
Yeah, I'm still lined up.
I got it. Still lined up?
Yep.
Okay.
Looks good.
So when the new screw shows up, probably Monday, I'll just drop it right inside there.
They still had them with the curvedness to them, so they're decorative.
Washer is
Yeah.
a special funnel
Gotcha.
sugar washer.
Very nice. one last step, unless you got another step. We need to wash that window, all the fingerprints. No scratches on the window. It looks beautiful.
Well, I think we're done for the day.
Okay, good.
There's one last step I've got to do before I can call this completed, except that one screw. I hand tightened this bezel nut for the remote mirror control, just enough to keep it in place. I now want to tighten it so it doesn't get loose over the next many years. I don't have to get really tight on this thing. The metal behind the bezel nut and this soft plastic will kind of act as an adhesion to each other. So once I have it tight enough, it'll be tight enough. Now, I do have special bezel nuts that fit these 4 little chamfers cut in the inside diameter of this nut. By the time I find it, I could have finished the job with a pair of pliers, where each leg of the pliers goes into 2 of these little small slots, chamfer slots, cut inside there. And then I simply turn it to the right until it feels tight enough. I test to make sure the mirror's moving around, and it is, so I'm good. Roll down the window all the way. Make sure the mirror still works, and it does. So I didn't get anything bound up with its cabling inside there. This time, other than putting the tools away, we're done.